Right. So I welcome you all once again to this 91st session of Leadership Talks. As you know that these sessions are being organized by India International Education Council and Schoolology Solutions. India International Education Council is a not-for-profit organization which is working in the field of education. It has collaborators from 12 countries. It aims to create a better world through education. It also aims to build quality centers for elementary education, which are approachable for all kids, finding best educational practices across the globe and find ways to implement those in Indian institutions. It is also trying to create more awareness on hygiene and learning disabilities. It publishes a magazine called World Education Review and many other educational reports. It aims to build 100 chapters in different cities by 2022. It will soon open its membership for institutions and individuals. It also imparts training for leaders, teachers, students, and parents. As I shared that this is a 91st session. So far, we have conducted 90 sessions. We have received 8,422 registrations, 7,514 questions. We have seen participation from 5 countries: India, USA, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Nepal. From India, we have seen participation from 19 states and 83 cities. We aim to organize 200 sessions. With these 200 sessions, we would be reaching out to 100,000 educators, 20,000 institutions, and 1,000 plus eminent speakers like today's speakers would be joining us, to share their perspective and thoughts. So, with this, I would request you all please join me in welcoming our key speakers for this very special 91st session. Our first key speaker, Gunjan Mehrotra ma'am. Gunjan ji is principal with Ellen House Public School, Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. Gunjan ma'am is gold medalist, alumna of Isabella Thoburn College. She has been associated with education and training for the last 22 years. She has been a trainer at Frank Fing Institute of Air Hostess Training and also a GDPI moderator for CAT aspirants. With vast experience in future-ready schools, she has been particularly sensitizing teachers and students, on the importance of STEM education and 21st century skills. Ellen House Public School was the first school in Lucknow to host a 3 day satellite making workshop for students in 2018. She is the recipient of the most innovative principal award from the Padam Shri Viparthi Adhimurti ji from ISRO and Mr. Troy D. Klein from STEM education segment of NASA. We welcome you, Gunjan ma'am. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome, ma'am. Our next speaker, Sumandatta Sakarji, unfortunately, she won't be able to join us due to some medical emergency. She would be joining us during later sessions. Our next key speaker, Ruchi Seth ma'am. Ruchi ma'am, in fact, needs no introduction. She is the principal with Ellen House Public School, Khalasi Lines, Kanpur, Uttar Pradesh. She's a passionate educationist with more than 3 decades of experience in school education. She is a master's in English literature, MPA, B.Ed. She has also done a diploma in computer management. She has been a manager and administrator at corporate sector. She is a she is also a freelancing writer and editor with various magazines and newspapers. She is the recipient of various prestigious awards like Best Technical Excellence Award for Best Service by Aptech Computers. She's also the recipient of Best Principal Award by AKS Knowledge Service, recipient of a Group Pranam Award by Amar Ujala. We welcome you, Ruchi ma'am. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Our next key speaker, Gayatri Munjalji. Gayatri ji is director with the Doon Yudhisthira Public School, Dehradun, Uttarakhand. She started her career as a practicing advocate in the District Court of Dehradun. She also have an extensive knowledge in the area of international investment arbitration. Her purpose is to make a distinct contribution in modernizing and revitalizing the existing education system that has become rusted over time by offering value-based education to the forthcoming generation. Have been associated with the top-notch law firms, including Titus and Company, Delhi Kesar Das Associates, Lotus India Legal Solutions. She has been awarded as Best Speaker in ninth Intra Moot Court competition conducted by UPS in 2014. She has also won Best Memorial Award in fourth Rakesh Agrawal National Moot Court competition. She has also won Best Memorial Award in second National Moot Court competition by Rayat Bura University School of Law. Mohali. We welcome you, Gayatri ji. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome, Gayatri ji. Next, our key speaker, Jaswinder Singh sir. Jaswinder sir is the founder and CEO of Wordsworth ELC. Wordsworth English Language Lab is designed for India and is highly research initiative of ACT Unip Group. It is a trusted company with 2 decades of service in technology education. and training. Its expertise in technology, multimedia, and content development has been instrumental in presenting a world-class language lab solution for the academy in India. In a short span of time, Wordsworth English Language Lab has managed considerable recognition across the country for its unique content and methodology. Over 3,000 installations in institutions across the country stand testimony of the quality in product, implementation, training, and the continual service provided by ActUniv and its committed network of dealers. We welcome you, Jaswinder sir. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Rajul. Thank you.
Welcome, sir. With this, I would request all our key speakers, if I may come to you for your opening remarks. So I would request Gunjan ma'am, if we may begin with you, if I can have your 1 minute quick opening remark.
Well, we are all very excited, looking forward to the implementation of the new education policy. And when the new education policy came in limelight in July 2020, as you said, all of us have had a lot of discussion on this, and I look forward to a great session wherein I'll be able to learn something, and I assume that I'll be able to offer something useful to the co-panelists and the people who are listening to us. And together, we are all together in this, and we have been tasked with the responsibility to create a beautiful future for our Gen X, for our Alpha generation. And I just want to offer whatever I know to make this journey a little more useful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gunjan ma'am. What a strong statement you have said that, we need to create the future for our coming generations in a collaborative way. So thank you, Gunjan ma'am. I'll come back to you. With this, I
Yes.
would request Ruchi ma'am, if I may ask you for your opening remark.
Yeah, thank you so much, first of all, for bringing us together. And as you've already said, you've conducted so many sessions, and we've also been attending so many sessions at various forums for new education policy, of course. And since now policy is in place, now all our efforts have to be to execute it. And the year gone by has taught us a lot of endurance. And we fumbled, we've got up, and we worked and innovated with a lot of things, especially when it comes to school education. So I'm sure with NEP here and with all the co-panelists and educations together, we are going to definitely make this policy an effective one, and we'll see how we can make the best use of it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, absolutely, ma'am. We all agree with you that execution is going to be key. Now our focus should be on execution. Thank you, Ruchi ma'am. I'll come back to you. With this, I would request Gayatri ji, if I may ask you for your opening remark, Gayatri Manjal ji.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I really appreciated the elaborated introduction that you made before. It is both my honor and my pleasure to put forth my viewpoints on this national education policy that is regarded as transformational in the education business of today. Obviously, it was rolled out last year, and I feel that
Right.
any major change involves certain challenges. And it will be my honor to take up these challenges in my discussion that we might face in furtherance of this policy. Like both the key speakers have talked about the implementation being the key of this policy. We have to welcome this policy with open arms and see this policy is effective, and it in fact paves a way for a quality education for all the students. Because what I really like about this policy is that in the initial paragraphs only, it states about a vision, such a grand vision that beautifully states about world class quality education for everyone. So this will be also my topic of discussion, and I hope that we are able to bring something fruitful by this discussion. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Gayatri ji. And we all agree with you that we need to welcome this policy with a warm welcome. So thank you, Gayatri ji. I'll come back to you. I would also request, your voice was not coming in that. I would say if you can just try to set your mic or something. So we'll come
Actually,
back
I'm
to
in
you.
a low network area. I'll try to solve the problem.
Right, right. Thank you. So we'll come back to you now. Right. So now I would request Jaswinder sir. If I may ask you for your opening remark.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Uh, since I come from the language field and I've been working with more than 3,000 schools, 25,000 teachers, My entire talk is going to be focused more on language, the three language system, and how things about mother tongue, why should be implemented, what are the challenges, how do we address those challenges, and things like that. I find this policy to be uh, like a lot of people said, it's a disrupting policy, and that's where the challenge is, and that's where the icing is. We look forward to this if implemented properly, even if it is implemented part by part in stages. This is going to make a beautiful future for us kids. We happen to have the largest young population, but we also happen to have the largest population who are not able to get proper jobs. So this policy somewhere is asking people to move away from set 4 or 5 professions. There are thousands of other professions, including the blue collar professions. So that's where we're going to talk about. I'm going to discuss things about that, how this is going to change the way people look at different professions in our own country, let us aside outsiders. So that is what my focus is going to be. Let's see what comes up, and we'll collaborate and discuss things. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Jaswinder sir, for making that this policy is so powerful document. If it is implemented in part, then too it would create an impact. So thank you, Jaswinder sir. I'll come back to you. So with this, we come to the main talk part of the session. Now, I would be coming to all our key speakers. All the speakers, will get 8 to 10 minutes for their main talk. And in the end, we would be presenting questions which we have received on national education policy. And before I invite first key speaker, I just would like to share the learnings which we have had during our last 90 sessions. You know, during last 90 sessions, almost every speaker, every participant maintained that this is a wonderful document. Everyone believed that this is a great initiative. But at the same time, almost everyone said that execution is going to be very, very challenging. Lot of people said that finance would be a key challenge. Many people said that that intention or the training for teachers would be another a big challenge. A lot of people said that many good schools in the metro cities or urban areas, they are already implementing many positive part of this policy. So great challenge would be for the rural schools or government schools. Many believed that many raised the example of CCE, that it was another great initiative but got failed due to poor execution. So I would request all our speakers, so while interpreting your part of NEP, if you can also share some suggestions, if you can also suggest some kind of a roadmap which we all can try to execute in our respective domain. So with this, I would request our first key speaker, Gunjan Mehrotra ma'am. Gunjan ma'am, over to you. Your main talk, Gunjan ma'am.
Thank, thank you so much. And I'm privileged to open this conversation. And since I have been given the privilege to speak first, I believe that I should be giving an overview of what the intention of the new education policy is. What is the essence of the new education policy? So when we talk about the new education policy, before I begin speaking, I would like to talk about a movie that I saw yesterday, The White Tiger. The White Tiger is a film based on the book White Tiger, written by the Booker Prize winner Arvind Adiga. In that particular film, it was mentioned, and in the book, of course, it is mentioned that we live in two Indias. India is not just one country, but two countries. The country of haves and the have-nots. I don't need to explain further, but all of us know that no matter how much we try and project ourselves as a developed country, there is a major section of the society that is underprivileged. And if we really want to bring about a change in the entire landscape of the country, if we really want people to come up, if we really have noble intentions, we need to understand that, as the opening lines of the new education policy says, that the only way that we can bring about things, we can bring about changes, is to ensure that people get the opportunity to explore their full potential, and that is possible only through education. So when we talk about the new education policy, the new education policy first of all talks about universalization of education, whether it's a private school or a public school, or school in a rural sector or rural area or the urban areas. Everywhere the opportunities must be same. So universalization of education perhaps is going to bring better opportunities at the doorsteps of the people who have been denied the benefits of good education hitherto. So that's the first important thing that has come across because of the people who have worked so hard to make the new education policy. Then we talk about reducing the dropouts. There are people in the rural areas in particular who make their children join school. The children join school, they come to school mainly for midday meals, unfortunately, because the parents feel that if the child is in school, we will not have to serve him food in the afternoon. So these people who come to school, they come to school not to learn much, but just to, just because they are forced and compelled by the government authorities. The parents are, they feel, okay, chalo jao school, but they do not have the real exposure. The real learning doesn't happen at these places. So when we talk about the new education policy, the new education policy also aims at improving upon the gross enrollment ratio. That is, they are trying to ensure that more and more people join school and they do not quit school. The aim of the government is that by the year 2025, there should be 100% enrollment in school, especially with regard to primary education. And for higher education, there should be at least 50% people going to college from school. Generally, what happens, people, they join school and after class 12, many of them do not get the opportunity to join colleges. Whatever reasons, economic reasons, or perhaps the distance is more, there are no schools or colleges close to the place where they live. So they are denied the benefits of higher education. So the new education policy aims that we should be able to improve upon the gross enrollment ratio, and we should ensure that at least 50% people receive higher education as well. Then a lot of stress has been put on the vocational skills. We here in India, for us, the regular subjects, English, Hindi, Math, Science, SST, these are the subjects that have been attended to. But now the government wants that vocational subjects should also be given attention to, and not just the vocational subjects in general, the vocational landscape of the place where you live in. For example, if you live in Lucknow, then chicken work, the chicken embroidery or something, all these things will also be taught to children, so they are able to respect their heritage, their culture, their legacy, and they are able to take forward the dying art. There are many beautiful works that have died, mainly because the next generation, the Gen Next, the Alpha generation, they are not interested in carrying forward the legacy of their parents. So vocational skills are stressed to a remarkable extent in the new education policy. The government also wants to give a lot of attention to research work. A lot of research has to happen so that the quality of education improves. And in this regard, I would like to say that all of us must have come across this line which says that the content will be reduced by 35%. I was listening to a great educationist, Dr. Jawahar Suri Sethi, and he gave a beautiful explanation. He said that you can go to a 5-star hotel and get 15 dishes, a little bit of everything before your stomach is filled. And at the same time, you can have a simple dal chawal which is made well. You will relish that more than even 30 dishes put forth. So when we talk about the reduction in the content, when we talk about reducing the content that will be presented to the children, the government is learning well. Instead of becoming a jack of all trades, the syllabus has been reduced to the core minimum, and then the children can be given expert guidance in certain subjects, so that the child is able to develop things, develop according to the kind of interest that he has. So the reduction of syllabus is the content that will be taught to the children is going to be a remarkable change in the coming years. Then when we talk about the 21st century skills, a lot of stress is being paid on the 21st century skills. The government believes that with the 21st century, a lot of problems are coming. There are pandemics, there are floods, there are droughts, there are There are n number of problems. There is no dearth of problems for the 21st century people. So when we talk about these problems, a lot of adaptability, a lot of problem solving skills, decision making skills, a lot of respect for the other person, a lot of collaboration is required, so that we understand that we belong to a global village. We are Indians, we love our country, fine, but at the same time we need to understand that we belong to a global village where the problems faced by America are the same as the problem faced by India, or the problems faced by an undeveloped country like Somalia. So all of us need to work in collaboration to ensure that we find good solutions to global problems. So a lot of respect is given to the 21st century skills, and in order to ensure that 21st century skills are intertwined in the education system and people are given the right guidance with regard to that, the government has come up with the idea of 360-degree holistic report cards. So now onwards, that is probably from 2022, the report cards that will come in front of the parent would not tell them only that your child is good at English, bad at maths, excellent in Hindi but bad at science. This is not the only thing that will come forth the parents, but we would make sure that the child's skills with regard to a number of 21st century prerequisites like problem solving, decision making, team building, team spirit, all these things are also given due respect, and the child is not judged but encouraged to follow his interests. That is something which was not respected earlier, but now with the coming of the 21st century, skills in the education, especially in the primary section, coming of 21st century skills is a huge step. It's a leap forward. Then when we talk about students have not been given the kind of respect and the kind of freedom in the choice of subjects. Hence, like hitherto they were not given the kind of freedom that an alpha student must have, or an alpha generation student must have. So now with the coming of the 21st century, with the coming of the new education policy, a lot of freedom will be given to the children also to choose the subjects. Like earlier, there was a marriage between physics, chemistry and biology, and if you want to be a doctor, you need to know everything about physics as well. Now, along with physics, chemistry, you might take psychology, or perhaps you might take a subject which interests you. You might take maths with economics, or you might take history with biology. So the boundary between extracurricular, co-curricular, curricular, humanities, commerce, science, all these things have been blurred. Now, because they have been blurred, the child has better freedom to select the subjects of his choice. Then a lot of multidisciplinary approach is being encouraged. That means the higher centers of higher education like IITs and all, they would not just boast of giving and offering the engineering students to the country. Now, by the year 2040, it is the government targets the year 2040. By the year 2040, the IITs and a number of medical colleges and all, they will be giving courses in other subjects also, in other fields also. For example, if you are an IITN and you are making a certain, like you're coming up with a certain innovation, you might take a subject with humanities also to ensure how your innovation is going to affect the population at large. So arts, commerce and science would go hand in hand. This is going to bring a lot of solace to people who take humanities as a subject. I remember when I was in college, I was an arts student, I was a humanities student, and you know, when you tell somebody you're doing a BA, they do not, okay, you're just a BA. But if you're doing a BSc or you're a science student, you were given more respect. So this kind of degradation of learning will be discouraged, which is a welcome step, and we'll really be benefited by this. At the same time, actually there's so many things. It's a 64-page document, and this concept has also come that now 100 best universities will come to Lucknow. I'm a person from Lucknow, so perhaps I'm using Lucknow a little too much. 100 best universities will come to India. Now, when we talk of the coming of 100 best universities to India, we are going to avoid the migration of around 5 lakh students who leave for America or China or Japan for higher learning. So with universities coming, good universities or world acclaimed universities coming to India, it will be a good way to control the brain drain, because when people go out for further studies, not many of them return and they make their abode somewhere outside. So it is good that the children will be given world class education in India itself. This will perhaps encourage them to stay on and do something worthwhile for their own country. So these are the points that I wanted to put forth, and I look forward to learning from others as well. And let's see, by the end of this session, I'm sure I'll be a better educationist. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gunjan ma'am. You highlighted very important points about NEP, that it focuses upon, you know, 21st century skills. It also focuses upon reducing the content part. So many educators during past sessions have also raised this part, that we need to reduce the content part. We reduce the syllabus and the amount of thing. You also talked about the assessment, the new age assessment thing, which is being also mentioned in NEP, that 360-degree report card. You talked about that, how the division between the curriculum and co-curricular activities. In fact, the extracurricular activities are being called co-curricular activities, for the first time in an institutionalized way. So, and you, in the end, you talked about that, how bringing the campuses of good international universities in India will help us in getting more or saving more, I would say, foreign reserve. So, thank you for that, Gunjan ma'am. I'll come back to you with questions. With this, I would request Ruchi ma'am. Ruchi ma'am, your interpretation, your idea of the national education policy.
Thank you so much. And of course, since we are discussing the policy over and over again, so obviously things would be a little repetitive. But yes, again, I would like to begin with something which actually sounds very, very welcoming and positive, like the Agenda for Sustainable Development adopted by India in 2015 seeks to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all by 2030. So this is such a beautiful statement, and it's so appealing. But again, this brings a lot of challenges in front of us as educationists. Now it's a lofty goal, as we just discussed. And now, of course, bringing children to school, especially in remote areas, we all know this, and keeping them into educational mode, this is challenging for our Shiksha Mitra, for the teachers who are in suburbs. Only, like Gunjan said, that only the midday meals would not be attractive. We need exhaustive counseling sessions for these children. And of course, as the policy says, we need to have good washrooms, we need to have good infrastructure for them so that they can be there for the whole day learning, and actually teaching and learning transactions can take place. So if we are actually talking of education for all on 2030, I think at this level, we need to really work at an exhaustive level. These children need to be shown bigger picture and be motivated throughout that why education is necessary, and where they are at the spot just now, and where they would be the next destination, or where they would reach. The whole path has to be chalked out and shown to them, that where they would land once they are educated and they enjoy the fruits of the education. Because when this policy is talking about, education for all, and the surveys in the newspapers and all, they talked about that almost 3.22 crore students or children of age group of 6 to 17 were found out of schools. Now bringing these children back to school and putting them back into educational mode would be a challenge to achieve this particular line for when we say education for all by 2030. So for this, the teachers who have taken up this responsibility have to be really, really good counselors. They need to resonate with them, understand them, and especially the families, and the follow-ups have to be done at aggressive level, so that we can achieve this agenda of education for all for 2030. Next thing which is very appealing in this policy for me is they are talking about experiential learning, which is the latest buzz